I just finished the covers to the journals I've made for our daughters, and I'm so happy with how they turned out. In this video, I'll share how I created the patchwork covers for these handmade journals. I used a sheet of sketch paper, scissors, EVA glue, a bone folder, but you could use a knife instead. I'm using a cardboard box and some fabric scraps. I began by taking apart the cardboard box and cutting off all the loose edges so that I had 3 sides. These are the signatures I had previously created. They will fit perfectly inside the book. I've got a sheet of drawing paper 2 inches larger in height and width than the size of the box. That's going to be the foundation piece on which I create the patchwork. Now comes the fun part. Using a whole bunch of fabric scraps, I spent some time creating each of the covers. There are a lot of vintage fabrics in here that are left over from clothing, little bits that have meaning to each of my daughters. I'm also including some houses because that is our name after all. This is a technique that I saw on another YouTube video. I will link to that in the description below. I thought it was such a great idea to use a sheet of paper as the foundation. Next, I'm using a simple school glue stick to tack down each of these fabrics on my foundation piece. And then once that's all tacked down, I'll take it to my sewing machine and sew around each of the patches. These houses will go over top. A little more glue and a little more stitching, and we are ready. Flipped over the piece and trimmed off the edges. Put some glue on the box. Centered on the back of the patchwork. I used a ruler to draw a diagonal line 1/4 inch away from all of the corners. And then I just simply snipped off those corners. I used my bone folder to crease inside just to introduce to the fabric what the shape of the book will become. I start on the short ends, add some of the PVA, and very carefully fold over the edge and smooth it down with my hands. Use my brush and a little bit extra glue to adhere any loose fabrics. Then we'll go to the other short end and repeat. Now I'm going to glue over the long sides in the same way, but before I do, I want to tuck in those corners to create a really neat edge. I use the tip of the bone folder to do it on one end. But you can see here I used my thumbnail to do this, just sort of tucked it in. Kind of the way you do hospital corners making a bed. I use the bone folder to tap the corners just to square them off. While it's still wet, they're pliable, and that just helps to keep everything in shape. Now I've got the last side to do. Wonderful. So now I need to let this dry. I'm using some freezer paper, and I fold in the sides, staple this freezer paper together so that the book will hold its shape as it dries. The next day I take off the freezer paper. I'll save that for the next step. And I'm going to glue down the end papers. First, I need to measure and cut them. They're going to be about 1/4 inch from the top and bottom and the end of both sides. Along the interior of the spine, for both of these books, I'm using the same sheet of fabric. Start by gluing down the end papers one at a time. Now for the fabric along the inside of the spine. This is overlapping the end papers by about 1/2 inch on either side. It's going to provide a flexible surface when the book opens and closes. And now, while it dries, I want to have it hold its shape, but I don't want to have it stick to one another. So I fold up a little bit of the freezer paper, place it in between the two ends on the corner, and wrap another piece around the top to protect the fabrics, and just put on a clip. I'll do the same on the other side. I let this sit overnight again to dry, and here they are. I'm so happy with how they turned out. They each contain some of the same elements, but are very unique in and of themselves. Here's one of the book covers with the signatures I already created to go inside. They're going to fit nicely in. I thought I was going to stitch them in next, but then it occurred to me that this would be a nice opportunity to stitch some tabs into the signatures. So that is what I did next. Thanks for watching.